The clockmaker's compass. Ethan was a young inventor living in the heart of modern London. Fascinated by time, he spent years tinkering in his attic, surrounded by gears, coils, and dusty books. One stormy night, he finally completed his masterpiece, a device called the clockmaker's compass, a brass contraption that could manipulate time. With trembling hands, he entered a date, May 14th, 1285. As the gears spun and the compass glowed, a whirl of light engulfed him. When the storm cleared, Ethan found himself standing on a muddy road surrounded by thick forests, hearing the clang of iron and the murmur of peasants. He had arrived in medieval England. Disguising his strange clothes with a cloak, Ethan wandered into a nearby village. The people stared at him, wary of the outsider. Luckily, a kind blacksmith named Aldred offered him shelter. Ethan repaid the kindness by repairing the village's broken water wheel, impressing everyone with his wizardry. But all was not peaceful. Rumors spread of a sore living in the woods, someone the cruel Lord Devereux believed was causing the recent storms and crop failures. When the Lord's men found Ethan's strange device, they accused him of witchcraft and threw him into a dungeon. With the help of Aldred's daughter, Elira, a brave and clever girl, Ethan escaped. They rode through the night, evading soldiers and hiding in ancient ruins. Ethan knew he had to get back to his time before the compass's energy faded forever. In a final chase through the foggy moors, Ethan activated the compass as Lord Devereux's knights closed in. A flash of light blinded everyone, and then silence. Ethan woke up in his attic. The storm had passed. Everything was as it was, except the old cloak still lying on his workbench, and a silver pendant Elira had given him. He smiled. "Time changes everything," he whispered, "but some things are timeless." When Ethan awoke in his attic, soaked with rainwater and dirt from another century, he wasn't sure if it had been real. But the pendant from Elira, etched with an ancient tree, was still clutched. Ethan realized something was wrong. The gears were misaligned, and the dial spun out of control. Before he could fix it, the compass activated again. This time, Ethan landed not in the quiet village he remembered, but in a remote place. He found Aldred wounded, half buried under a fallen cart. The blacksmith gasped. They came, not from the castle, but the Enrico. Before Ethan could ask more, Aldred pressed a crumpled parchment into his hand. "Give this to Elira." She joined the resistance. In the woods, south of the ruin, then the blacksmith closed his eyes for Ethan journeyed south, dodging patrols and using his knowledge of machines to sabotage enemy camps. He found Elira, now a fierce leader among a band of rebels hiding in the ruins of an old Roman temple. She was overjoyed and shocked to see him. "We thought you were dead. After you vanished, Devereux doubled his raids. But something's changed. They want the compass now, not power, but something beyond time." Ethan shared everything: the compass malfunction, his brief return, and Aldred's message. The parchment revealed a map leading to a hidden vault beneath Blackmore Castle. It was built by ancient monks who studied the stars, and possibly time itself. But entering Blackmore was suicide. Unless Elira and Ethan devised a bold plan: infiltrate Blackmore during the festival of St. Harwin, when the castle gates would be open to the public. Disguised as entertainers and traders, the rebels slipped inside. Beneath the chapel, Ethan found a secret stairwell leading deep underground. At the heart of the vault was a mural, a star chart with markings identical to those on the compass. And in the center, a second device, a mirror compass, glowing with a deep blue hue. But as Ethan reached for it, Lord Devereux himself appeared, older now, but burning with madness. "The device belongs to me. I have seen what lies beyond time, kingdoms that fall in seconds and rise again." He revealed that he too had glimpsed the future, once briefly through the mirror compass. He believed conquering time would make him immortal. A fierce battle erupted. Elira and the rebels fought bravely against Devereux's guards. Ethan, wounded, reached both compasses and activated them together. Time rippled. The vault trembled. Visions appeared: past lives, future empires, the end of the world, and the rebirth of stars. Devereux lunged, but Ethan made a decision. He merged the compasses, locking time itself and sealing the vault forever. In the blinding light, he grabbed Alira's hand and woke up in his attic again. But this time, Alira was beside him. They had returned together. The compass was gone, burned into ash, but the pendant still hung around Alira's neck. She looked out the window at the modern world, full of light and machines. "This world," she whispered, "is louder, but maybe safer." Ethan smiled. "And maybe it needs a blacksmith's daughter to fix a few things." They stood side by side, ready for whatever adventure came next, whether in this time or the next. Ethan and Alira spent the first few weeks in silence, navigating a world that moved faster than anything Alira had known. The roar of traffic, the glow of city lights, the endless voices on screens, it overwhelmed her. Yet, she never once flinched. She was the same girl who had faced down soldiers, slept in ruins, and to Ethan became her guide. He taught her to use the toaster, the shower, and eventually even a laptop. In return, Alira showed him how to build with patience, how to listen to wind patterns and read the stars again. Not with algorithms, but instinct. But the past wasn't dawn one night. Ethan dreamed of fire again, of Devereux's eyes, not full of rage this time, but sorrow. In the dream, Devereux stood alone in the collapsed vault, holding a fragment of the destroyed compass. His voice echoed, "Time bends, but it remembers. One day, the door will open again." Ethan woke in a cold sweat. He raced to the attic. The ash from the burnt compass had formed a pattern on the floor, a spiral, the same shape that had once spun inside the core of the device. But now it was faintly glowing. "Alira," he whispered, "something's still active." She stood beside him, calm. "Then it's not over." Over the next days, strange signals appeared in the lab equipment. Ethan's computers picked up faint pulses, coded in Latin. They traced them to a hidden valley in the Alps, long sealed off after a landslide in the 1300s. The place was called Velmora in old texts, rumored to be a monastery where monks studied the breath of time. They packed and left quietly, carrying only what they could. In the valley, they found crumbled ruins, vines choking centuries of stone. But beneath one of the broken towers, a room still stood, untouched by time. Inside were murals of stars, and two empty pedestals. One bore the faded inscription, Tempus vincit omnia, time conquers all. But the other read, said Cordis vincit tempus, but the heart conquers time. Suddenly, Alira paused. Her pendant, the one her father gave her, was glowing. It floated from her neck and settled into the second pedestal. A soft hum filled the chamber. Light poured in through the cracks in the ceiling. The room shook. From the far wall, a door appeared, not a physical one, but an outline, shimmering like heat. They stepped through. What they saw was not past or future. It was everywhere. A landscape where ancient castles floated beside neon towers, where knights rode alongside machines, where languages blurred and skies shifted colors like breathing fabric. They stood at the threshold of a realm between timelines. Ethan looked at Alira. "We could map it, understand it. We could even fix what time broke." Alira nodded. "Or we could just walk and see where it takes us." Hand in hand, they stepped into the unknowable. And the compass, somewhere in the dust of lost moments, ticked once more. In the realm between timelines, Ethan and Alira no longer felt the passage of time the way they once had. They walked through awe-inspiring landscapes. An ancient Roman city suspended in midair by pillars of light, a mechanical forest where the trees sang harmonies, a desert where the sun never set and shadows came to life. All were fragments of ages, some that had existed, some that would exist, and some that never had. They quickly realized they were not alone. Other travelers wandered this place. A female scholar from a distant future, a young samurai boy lost from the Edo period, a Roman soldier pulled from battle by accident. Each carried a fragment of history and an unanswered question. But no one stayed long. Those who remained too long began to lose their memories, names, eras, even the reason they began their journey. They became nameless drifters, ghost-like figures wandering between moments, unsure if they themselves were still real. Ethan feared that fate. He began documenting everything in a small journal, every day, every conversation, every dream. Alira, however, was different. She didn't try to hold on to time. She lived fully in each moment. She found a field of wildflowers beneath a twin-moon sky and taught lost children how to camp, how to fight, and how to remember their names. Slowly, people began to call her the keeper of memory. One day, while they rested by a lake of crystal water, a strange sound echoed, tick, 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 like the rhythm of an old clock. But Ethan hadn't brought any device. From beneath the lake, a blurred shadow rose. It was Devereaux, but not a man anymore. Not angry, not powerful. Just a fragment of consciousness, trapped in the web of time itself. He whispered, "You broke the compass, but it wasn't the only one. The mirror compass still exists, shattered across this realm. And someone is collecting the pieces." Before Ethan could speak, the image vanished. The truth hit like lightning. There was another device, the mirror compass. Not destroyed, but broken into shards and scattered across the timeless world. And someone was gathering them, not to explore, but to control time. And if the shards were reassembled, they wouldn't just allow time travel. They would erase entire timelines, rewriting reality itself. A race began. Ethan and Alira followed the trail of the shards. The first was embedded in the crown of an Egyptian queen. The second had been forged into the blade of an Arthurian knight. The third lay hidden inside the quantum data vault of a floating city in the year 3127. Each time they recovered a shard, the world around them became more unstable. Days and nights reversed, people's memories shifted, and sometimes Ethan and Alira found themselves speaking languages they had never learned. They couldn't turn back. A presence stalked them, a figure in a glass mask, always appearing at moments of collapse. He never spoke. He only watched, as if he knew every possible ending, and was waiting for them to take the wrong step. Ethan and Alira pressed on, chasing whispers through the folds of reality. Their next destination was a world half frozen in twilight, a vast, crumbling city where time itself moved unevenly. One district might stretch a second into an hour, another might flash through a decade in minutes. It was called the City of Echoes, and it was said to have once been the heart of a fallen empire that tried to master time and failed. In the cathedral at the city's center, they found the fourth shard of the mirror compass. It was embedded in a stained glass window that shimmered between different centuries with every heartbeat. To retrieve it, Alira had to step inside a moment that wasn't her own, a memory of a woman who had died centuries earlier. When she returned, she was shaking. "I saw my mother," she whispered, "but not in our time. She was part of something bigger, something older." Ethan held her hand, but said nothing. He had also begun to see fragments of his own life slipping into these strange places. His father's workshop in a cloud-wrapped city, his childhood dog running through a field that shouldn't exist. Time was starting to fold around them, recognizing them. As they collected the fifth shard, from a pocket dimension that looked like an endless library, things began to change. The glass-masked figure appeared more often, sometimes watching from rooftops, sometimes stepping through doors that shouldn't exist. Once, Ethan saw him in a mirror, wearing his own face. They finally confronted him atop a spiral tower, lost in a sky of fractured moons. "Who are you?" Ethan demanded. The figure tilted his head. When he spoke, his voice echoed like many versions of himself speaking at once. "I am a possibility, one where you chose ambition, where you rebuilt the compass to rule time, not understand it. I am what you could become." Ethan stepped back. Alira drew her knife, eyes blazing. The figure didn't flinch. "The last shard lies at the edge of all time, where reality breaks. I will see you there." Then he vanished, leaving behind only the hum of unraveling worlds. Their path now led to a place the other travelers feared, a boundary called the Fray. It was a storm of broken timelines, where unfinished histories collided like waves. Floating islands drifted in and out of existence. Warships from different eras fired blindly into the void. Beasts born from forgotten myths prowled the shadows. But somewhere in that chaos was the final shard. Alira found it inside the skeleton of a clock tower, suspended in the heart of a storm. She had to leap from crumbling platforms, dodge falling gears, and finally use her pendant, the last trace of her world, to unlock the chamber. As she touched the shard, it pulsed with all the other pieces, each one glowing, vibrating, calling to be reunited. But now came the hardest choice. They could reassemble the mirror compass, and risk allowing it to fall into the wrong hands, or they could scatter the shards again, further than ever before, and ensure that no one could ever reshape time. Alira looked at Ethan. "We've seen what it does," she said, "and what you might become." Ethan nodded, pain in his eyes. "Then we break the loop." But just as they prepared to cast the shards into the fray forever, the masked version of Ethan appeared again, this time without the mask. He looked weary, older, sad. "Don't destroy it," he said softly. "There's still a future where it saves everything, where we learn, where time heals." Alira stepped forward. "And what if we don't want to gamble anymore?" A silence hung in the air. Then the older Ethan smiled faintly. "Then you're better than me." He vanished. In the end, they made their choice, not to destroy the compass, but to hide the shards across unfindable places. Each one would be guarded by a traveler who knew the price of power, sworn never to unite them. And as the storm of time calmed around them, Ethan and Alira found themselves once again at the edge of a quiet field. A single sunrise, a world at peace. No compasses, no time machines, just them. And for the first time in countless lifetimes, they were free. The world had changed. Centuries had passed since Ethan and Alira disappeared from the chronicles of time. Their names became myths, and the story of the mirror compass faded into forgotten libraries and coded memories hidden deep in artificial minds. Most believed it was just a tale told by dreamers and old wanderers, something about a couple who walked through time and vanished into legend. But time remembers. In the year 4982, the Earth was no longer the sole cradle of humanity. Cities floated above cloud oceans, and civilizations thrived across moons and engineered planets. Yet for all their progress, people still feared one thing: the temporal scars, unstable zones in the universe where time twisted and memory vanished. One such scar was buried deep within a jungle on a terraformed planet called Leora 7. It was there that Kalen, a 17-year-old orphan and apprentice chronoarchivist, uncovered something strange. While exploring ruins swallowed by silver vines, Kalen found a chamber that shouldn't have existed, round, ancient, and humming with dormant power. In its center floated a single object, a shard of glass, hovering above a stone pedestal. As he reached out to touch it, it pulsed, and his mind filled with visions. A field of flowers beneath two moons, a woman with wild silver hair, a man writing in a notebook, crying without reason. A voice: "Time is a river, but rivers remember the rain." Kalen fell back, gasping. But he wasn't alone. From the shadows stepped a figure in a dark cloak, not old, but timeless. Her eyes glowed faintly gold, like starlight. She wore a pendant shaped like a broken compass. "You've touched the first shard," she said quietly, "and now you're part of it." Kalen's voice shook. "Part of what?" "The legacy of two people who chose balance over power," she replied. "But not everyone agreed with their choice. Some still want the mirror compass rebuilt." Kalen stared at her. "Who are you?" The woman smiled softly. "I'm the daughter of memory. My mother was called Alira." And so began a new quest. Kalen, reluctant but driven by visions he couldn't explain, joined the Keeper's daughter on a journey across fractured worlds. Together, they searched for the remaining shards, buried in places few dared to go. A drifting colony ship stuck in a time loop, where the same hour repeated endlessly and the crew no longer noticed. A city frozen in the moment of a great war, where peace could only be found by rewriting the last second. A forgotten moon where dreams became real, and time was powered by belief itself. But they weren't the only ones hunting. A new force had risen. The Horizon Order, a cult of historians, scientists, and broken minds who believed time must be purified. They believed the mirror compass, when whole, could erase the flawed timelines and cleanse reality to a single perfect path. And leading them was a man who wore a broken glass mask, cracked but familiar. Some believed he was a clone, others a ghost. Kalen wondered, could it be Ethan himself? Had he returned? Had he fallen? With each shard they found, time grew stranger. Kalen began to remember things he had never lived. Conversations with Alira, memories of a war he'd never fought. At times, he could speak dead languages. He began to wonder, was he a traveler reborn, or something new entirely? And deep inside him, the shards whispered, "You are not just following history, you are becoming its author." Kalen's dreams were no longer his own. Each night, he wandered through impossible places. A battlefield where the sky bled rivers of stars, a clock tower taller than mountains, a cradle suspended in blackness where a child cried with the voice of the universe. In these dreams, he saw glimpses of Ethan and Alira, and sometimes himself standing beside them. But the Kalen in the dreams was older, wiser, and sometimes frightening. The keeper's daughter, who called herself Lyra, noticed the change. "You're remembering echoes," she said, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. "The mirror compass doesn't just control time, it binds souls to it. You may be more connected to Ethan than either of us thought." Kalen looked at her, fear in his eyes. "What if I become him? The other him?" Lyra didn't answer at first. Then, "That depends on the choices you make now." The Horizon Order was moving faster. With each shard Kalen and Lyra recovered, the Order responded, sometimes with armies, sometimes with whispers. Their leader, the man with the fractured mask, revealed himself more openly now. Though his face was never fully seen, his voice was hypnotic. "You don't see it, do you?" he told Kalen during a psychic encounter through a mirror of folded time. "This world is chaos. Countless timelines, most full of suffering. Rebuilding the compass won't destroy time. It will refine it. You could save millions by deleting a few broken hours. Save galaxies by erasing one cruel century. Wouldn't you do that if you had the power?" Kalen didn't answer, but the seed of doubt was planted. Their journey took them next to the graveyard of futures, a broken planet formed from the wreckage of failed civilizations. In a collapsed observatory, beneath layers of ash and silence, Kalen found a vault made from impossible materials. Inside it hovered the penultimate shard, pure silver and singing with energy. When he touched it, the world fell away. He stood in a space of nothing. Before him stood Ethan, not masked, not aged, just present. "You're me," Kalen whispered. "No," Ethan replied, "but I was you, in another path, one where I failed." Kalen's fists tightened. "You're part of the Horizon Order." Ethan shook his head slowly. "I'm what's left of the part that fought them. I died trying to stop them, but some pieces of me stayed in the shards. I waited for you." "Why me?" "Because you still have a choice," Ethan said. "Because I know what happens if you don't make it." Kalen awoke with the shard in hand, Ethan's final words still echoing. "The last shard is not hidden. It is buried inside you." In a hidden temple, Lyra confirmed what Kalen feared. The final piece of the mirror compass had fused with his very soul when he touched the first shard. He was now its living key. To rebuild the compass would be to unlock the full map of time, past and future. To destroy it would mean shattering something within himself. And the Horizon Order was closing in. They launched a final assault on the temple, a war through time itself. Soldiers flickered between centuries as they fought, weapons adapting mid-battle to match whatever moment they were in. Time shattered like glass around them. In the heart of the chaos, the fractured masked man confronted Kalen face to face. "You have no idea what you're holding," he hissed. "You think you're saving time by destroying this? You are time. You were born of it, forged by it. This world made you its compass." Kalen stood silent, then stepped back, and made his choice. He raised the shards, and instead of combining them, he let them drift apart. He used the energy of the final piece, the shard within, to break the others into pure possibilities, releasing them into the stream of existence. Not as weapons, not as tools, but as seeds. Time bent around him, collapsing, expanding, becoming something new. The horizon order was erased, not by violence, but by impossibility. Their timeline collapsed into a dream, never to return. And the fractured man? He faded, his mask falling to the floor, and for the briefest moment, Kalen saw his own face, older and sad. Then nothing. Kalen awoke beside Lyra, beneath a tree that hadn't existed before. The stars above were unfamiliar. The air was full of songs from birds that hadn't been born yet. He smiled. "I don't think we're in any time at all." Lyra took his hand. "No," she said. "We're in the first time. The world before all others. The new beginning." A new dawn. Kalen and Lyra wandered the untouched world, unsure whether they stood in the past, the future, or some new dimension beyond both. Time here flowed like a gentle tide, constant but unmeasured. Flowers bloomed in hours, not seasons. Stars shifted with the rhythm of dreams. They had no compass, no shard, and no mission, but time, ever hungry, doesn't remain quiet for long. One evening, as Kalen gazed into a lake so still it reflected me, not a child with golden eyes and starlight in her hair, standing in the future, calling his name. "Did you see that?" he asked Lyra. But Lyra was already pale. "I dreamed of her last night. She called herself Iona." The child beyond time. Within days, signs began to appear. Strange markings carved into the stones of their new world, spirals and glyphs that responded to their thoughts. Time wasn't dead. It was learning to live again. Then Iona came. She simply walked into their clearing one night, barefoot, glowing faintly. "I'm sorry," she said, "but I need your help. Something's wrong." She explained that she was born after time was rewritten, a child of the new thread, the first true timeline since the collapse. But something had corrupted it. The freed possibilities, the scattered shards of the compass, had begun to awaken. They were no longer just pieces of potential. They were becoming beings. Each shard had taken a shape, dreamlike, unstable, powerful, wandering the cosmos like gods without memory. Some healed worlds. Others destroyed entire civilizations by accident. And one was hunting the others. Kalen's voice was a whisper. "You mean?" The shards became alive. Iona nodded. "One of them calls himself Zero. He believes he's the first clock, and wants to gather the others and reset ever, even this timeline. Even me." Kalen's hands trembled. "We scattered them to save time." "And you did," Iona said. "But now we must save the shards." A new journey with Iona as their guide, Kalen and Lyra left the timeless sanctuary. Their first destination, the planet Varelis, where a shard being had become a protector spirit worshipped by an entire civilization. But Zero had already arrived, corrupting the world's time. People aged backward, forgetting who they were even as they begged for help. Kalen confronted the shard. It took the form of a flame-wreathed wolf, speaking only in echoes. He reached out not to fight, but to remember it. And slowly, the shard wolf merged with Kalen's memory, regaining its identity. One shard saved. Many remained. Across the broken thread their journey led them through wonders and horrors. A planet where shard twins ruled as tyrants of emotion. One of eternal joy, the other of endless sorrow. A realm of pure thought, where a shard being had fused with an artificial intelligence to become a god of probability. A dying star whose light carried the soul of the shard of hope. The last thing Ethan had seen before vanishing forever. Each time Kalen saved one, his connection to the compass grew. Not just the device, but the will of time itself. Zero grew stronger too. He consumed shards, grew in size and clarity, and soon began reshaping memories across entire species. People started to remember different lives, different histories, as if time were being rewritten live. The choice returns in the final confrontation. Deep within a hollow universe that had never formed, Kalen stood before Zero, a towering being of mirrored light and endless gears. Zero's voice was neither cruel nor kind. You gave the world possibility. Now it suffers indecision. I offer peace. A perfect cycle. One timeline. One story. Isn't that what all stories want? Kalen stepped forward, no longer afraid. No. Stories want freedom. They want to surprise even themselves. Then he did something unexpected. He let go. He didn't destroy Zero. He didn't fight him. He offered the final shard himself to Zero. Time doesn't need control, Kalen said. It needs forgiveness. And in that moment, Zero cracked. Not shattered, but changed. The being of mirrored perfection looked inward and saw a child, a man, a wolf, a girl with silver hair, a wanderer named Ethan. And Zero wept. Then he dissolved into light and joined the thread instead of trying to bind it. Epilogue. Kalen, Lyra, and Iona watched a sunrise no one had seen before. This time, there were no echoes, no loops, just a dawn. Iona whispered, "What happens now?" Kalen smiled faintly. "Now, we live, one day at a time." And in the distance, somewhere between futures not yet imagined, the compass no longer turned. It breathed. Years later, the world had grown. After the fall of Zero and the rebirth of the thread, time flowed freely and fairly, unpredictable but balanced. The cosmos had entered what some called the quiet spiral, a golden age of exploration, peace, and strange dreams. Kalen had disappeared not long after that final sunrise. Some said he walked into the thread itself and became a guardian of time's breath. Others claimed he had simply lived, grown old, and faded into the myths like Ethan before him. But stories, true stories, never end. The Echo Archive in the orbit of the twin suns of Asura, there floated a quiet satellite. No engines, no signals, no doors, only one name etched in golden spirals, the Echo Archive. It waited, and one day someone arrived. Her name was Nessa, a child born with a gift no one could explain. She could hear memories when she touched the wind, and sometimes she spoke in voices that weren't hers. Most people thought she was cursed. One man, her mentor, a broken historian named Roan, thought otherwise. "She's thread-touched," he whispered. "The archive will open for her." And it did. Inside, Nessa found more than she could comprehend. A spinning galaxy suspended in stasis, each star pulsing with recorded moments. Voices spoke across centuries. Visions of people long dead blinked to life. But one room was sealed, until Nessa touched it. Inside was a message, left by Kalen himself. "If you're hearing this, it means time has survived me." Good. But survival isn't enough. Memory without meaning is just noise. If you've come this far, it's your turn now. He left coordinates, not just in space, but in time. Moments about to break. Not all threads stay peaceful, the message said. Some pull too hard, and must be tied back before they snap. Mission of the Threadwalkers, thus began the Threadwalker Initiative. Led by Nessa and Roan, a team of anomaly-sensitive explorers was formed. People born with fragments of connection to time's breath. Their job wasn't to fight or fix. It was to witness, to preserve, to remind broken timelines that someone was listening. They traveled to a world where a civilization erased its own past to avoid grief and lost its soul. A refugee ship caught in a loop of its own final hour, unable to break free from the moment before impact. A digital heaven where minds had uploaded themselves, but forgot they'd ever been human. In each place, Nessa found echoes of Kalen's teachings, not orders but questions. What is a timeline if no one remembers it? What does it mean to save a moment if the people inside it never get to change? Is the past sacred, or just another version of the present waiting to be challenged? Nessa didn't always have answers, but she carried the legacy forward. And slowly, the universe began to understand. Time wasn't a ruler to obey, nor a prison to escape. It was a conversation. Final note: one night, aboard the archive, Nessa stood alone and heard a voice in the silence. A whisper, soft, familiar. "You're doing well," it said. "I never wanted to lead. I just wanted to listen. And now you're listening too." She turned, and for a moment, just a moment, she saw Kalen standing there. Not older, not younger, just present. He smiled, then vanished, like a dream that meant something. The Echo Archive hummed softly in the void, a beacon for those who could hear time's hidden song. Nessa had become its heart, a living memory keeper, balancing fragile moments between what was and what could be. Her next mission came unexpectedly. A temporal distortion had appeared near the celestial labyrinth, a sprawling, ancient construct drifting between galaxies, built eons ago by a civilization lost to time. The labyrinth was rumored to hold secrets about the origin of the mirror compass itself. Nessa gathered her team: Roan the historian, Mira, a skilled temporal scout with the gift of foresight, and Jace, a quiet engineer who could hear the hum of broken timelines. As they entered the labyrinth, time fractured around them. Walls shifted, rooms rearranged themselves like a living puzzle. Past and future bled into one another. In the heart of the maze, they found a chamber unlike any other. A massive clockwork device, frozen yet alive, its gears etched with glowing runes. Mira touched a rune, and suddenly memories poured into her. Visions of Ethan and Alira, their struggles and sacrifices. The mirror compass was not just a tool, but a living weave of hopes, fears, and choices. But the device was failing, its heartbeat slowing, threatening to unravel the very fabric of time across the universe. Nessa realized the mission was greater than they imagined. They were not just protectors, but potential weavers of time's new pattern. With the team working against the clock, Nessa faced a choice: attempt to repair the compass, risking her own essence being absorbed, or let time flow freely, embracing chaos but preserving freedom. As she reached out to the device, a whisper echoed in her mind, a voice both ancient and familiar. Time remembers the rain, and the sun that follows. Nessa took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the ancient clockwork beneath her fingertips. The gears, though silent to most, sang a haunting melody only she could hear, a song of beginnings and endings intertwined. She glanced at her team. Roan's eyes were wide with awe, Myra's hands trembled as she clutched the glowing runes, and Jace stood ready with his tools, the weight of the moment settling over them all. "Whatever we decide," Nessa said softly, "this choice will shape the future, not just for us, but for every thread of time." She closed her eyes and let her mind reach out, feeling the compass's essence flowing through her, a river of possibilities rushing at once. Suddenly, a vision burst forth. The creators of the mirror compass, an ancient race known as the Chronary, beings who existed beyond linear time. They forged the compass not to control time, but to guide it, helping fractured timelines find harmony. But something went wrong. A great schism fractured the Chronary, and their creation became a battleground for wills and desires. The shards scattered, the compass broken, and with it, the balance of time itself. Nessa opened her eyes, determination burning bright. "We can't just repair it," she said. "We have to renew it, to honor its purpose without repeating past mistakes." With Jace's help, they began crafting a new core for the compass, one that could listen and adapt, a living instrument of time's will rather than a tool of dominion. As the new compass hummed to life, a radiant pulse spread through the labyrinth, stitching together the fractured moments and calming the restless shards scattered across the cosmos. Nessa felt a presence beside her, a warm, steady light. "Thank you," a voice whispered, gentle and true. She turned to see a figure shimmering into focus, neither fully human nor Chronary, but something between, a guardian born of time's own hope. Together, they watched as the labyrinth's walls settled, the gears turning smoothly once more. "Time is a story," the guardian said, "and you have just begun to write its next chapter." With the new mirror compass humming steadily, Nessa and her team felt a profound shift ripple through the cosmos. The echoes of fractured timelines softened. Distant worlds began to breathe easier, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. But the Guardian, who introduced themselves simply as Kalian, warned them gently. "The renewal is only the beginning. Time is not a straight path, but a vast tapestry with threads still unraveled. Some threads have frayed beyond repair, and others are tied to ancient secrets yet uncovered. Curious and eager, Nessa asked, "What secrets?" Kalian's gaze deepened. The Chronary were once guardians not only of time, but of the celestial nexus, a convergence point where all realities meet. Long ago, a force called the Void Weavers tried to unravel the nexus, threatening to collapse all existence into nothingness. The team exchanged uneasy glances. The Void Weavers were whispered about in legends. Entities born from the absence of time, beings who sought to erase stories before they even began. "We thought they were gone," Kalian said, "but the recent fractures hint they are stirring again. If the Void Weavers succeed, not only will time end, but all creation will dissolve." Nessa's heart pounded. "Then our mission is clear. We must protect the Nexus." Kalian nodded. "And you won't be alone. There are others, ancient allies of the Chronary, waiting to answer the call." The call to the ancients guided by Kalian, Nessa and her team set out on a journey across the newly mended threads of time, seeking the ancient keepers, enigmatic beings scattered across realities who held fragments of power needed to shield the Nexus. Their first destination was Thalvara, a planet swallowed by storms and veiled in eternal twilight, where the Keeper of Echoes resided. This being could listen to all lost stories and weave them back into the stream of existence. Their arrival was met with swirling winds and whispered warnings, but inside the Keeper's crystal sanctuary, Nessa found more than an ally. She discovered visions of a coming battle, where the fate of every timeline would be decided. Nessa and her team stepped cautiously into the crystal sanctuary of the Keeper of Echoes. The walls shimmered with reflections of countless lives, forgotten moments, lost loves, and faded dreams, all swirling around them like living memories. The Keeper appeared not as a single form, but as a shifting mosaic of faces and voices, each fragment telling a different story. Its voice was both everywhere and nowhere as it spoke. "You come seeking aid against the Void Weavers, those who unravel the very fabric of existence. Their hunger is endless, and their touch turns stories to dust." Nessa felt the weight of the Keeper's words settle in her chest. "How can we stop them?" The Keeper's mosaic shifted, showing visions of ancient battles where the Chronary and their allies fought the Void Weavers. Wars that spanned not just worlds, but the very planes of time and possibility. "To protect the celestial nexus," the Keeper explained, "you must gather the light fragments, shards of pure creation scattered across realities. Only united can they form a shield strong enough to repel the Void Weaver's assault." Roan stepped forward. "Where do we find these light fragments?" The Keeper's voices hummed softly. "Each fragment rests in a place where time bends uniquely. A forgotten library frozen in a moment, a dying star pulsing with first light, a sanctuary lost to dreams." Nessa nodded, determination firming in her gaze. "Then that is where we go." Quest for the light fragments, their next adventures led them through surreal and dangerous realms. In the library of ever-frozen pages, they raced against time itself, as moments flickered like candle flames threatening to go out forever. At the heart of the Star of Dawn, they faced a luminous storm where the light fragment glowed fiercely, but was guarded by shadows born of forgotten fears. Within the dreaming sanctuary, a place woven from the hopes of countless beings, they encountered illusions so real that doubt threatened to break their minds. Each light fragment tested not only their courage, but their understanding of what it meant to live in time's flow, to embrace change, loss, and hope all at once. With each light fragment secured, Nessa and her team felt the power of creation pulse stronger within the renewed mirror compass. But the Void Weaver's shadow grew, spreading tendrils of darkness through fractured worlds, twisting memories into nightmares. The library of ever-frozen pages in the frozen halls of the library, time hung suspended like fragile glass. Pages of ancient tomes floated midair, some whole, others torn, their words slipping away with each passing heartbeat. Mira led the way, her gift of foresight guiding them past traps where moments looped endlessly, trapping unwary travelers in echoes of forgotten mistakes. But the light fragment waited at the heart of the library, a crystal prism radiating soft light, guarded by a spectral librarian who challenged their right to claim it. To take the light fragment, the librarian said, you must face your own forgotten regrets and free them from shadow. Each member confronted visions of their pasts. Roan saw the lost civilizations he could not save. Jace relived moments of failure and doubt. Mira faced futures she feared she would never have. Nessa, too, faced her deepest fear, becoming a memory lost in time, forgotten and meaningless. Through courage and empathy, they each reconciled with their shadows, and the librarian bowed, allowing them to take the light fragment. The Star of Dawn next, they journeyed to a dying star where the light fragment burned like a newborn sun's first spark. Here, the Void Weaver's influence was strongest. The luminous storm around the star was alive with flickering shadows, trying to snuff out the light. Kalian joined the team here, lending his ancient strength as they braved the storm's fury. At the star's core, the light fragment shone fiercely, but it was guarded by a manifestation of doubt, a shadowy figure who whispered fears, trying to turn them against each other. Only by trusting their bond and the power of hope could they break the shadow's hold, securing the fragment as the storm calmed into a gentle dawn. The Dreaming Sanctuary, their final quest, led them to the Dreaming Sanctuary, a realm woven from collective hopes and dreams, ethereal and beautiful, but dangerously unstable. Here, illusions danced like living things. Some showed visions of victory, others preyed on deepest insecurities. Nessa realized the sanctuary mirrored her own heart, a place where belief in the future battled despair. In a moment of clarity, she stepped forward and reached out, embracing both light and shadow, weaving them into a new pattern of resilience. The sanctuary responded, revealing the last light fragment, a delicate shard glowing with infinite possibility. Rising threat with the light fragments united, the mirror compass now pulsed with radiant energy, ready to shield the celestial nexus. But the Void Weavers would not wait. Their assault began, waves of unraveling darkness crashing across realities, threatening to undo all existence. Nessa and her team prepared for the ultimate battle, not just to protect time, but to defend the right of all stories to be told. As the Void Weaver's dark tide surged toward the celestial nexus, the very fabric of existence trembled. Stars flickered, memories unraveled, and the cosmic threads that wove reality began to fray. Nessa stood at the heart of the nexus, the mirror compass glowing fiercely in her hands, now fully restored and pulsing with the combined power of the light fragments. Around her, her team readied themselves, Roan clutching ancient scrolls, Mira sharpening her visions, Jace tuning intricate devices, and Kalian radiating timeless strength. The Void Weavers appeared as shifting shadows, twisting and writhing like smoke caught in a storm, their whispers like the sound of silence swallowing sound itself. Your stories end here, they hissed. Your timelines will unravel into oblivion. Nessa's voice rang clear and steady. No story ends without being told. She raised the mirror compass, and the light fragments flared into a radiant shield, weaving a tapestry of light and hope across the nexus. The battle was not fought with swords or fire, but with memory, will, and belief. Nessa and her team called forth the echoes of every moment they had saved, every hope rekindled, every sacrifice made across time. The nexus pulsed with the collective strength of countless stories, heroes, lovers, dreamers, all united against the void. The shadows shrieked, writhing in resistance, but the light held firm. In the final moment, Nessa reached deep into the heart of the mirror compass, channeling all her courage and faith. A brilliant wave of energy burst forth, weaving the shattered threads of time back into a seamless whole. The Void Weavers howled as they were pulled into the void of forgotten things. Not destroyed, but contained, held in a timeless prison where their hunger could no longer harm the living. Aftermath, the celestial nexus shimmered, safe once more, its glowing heart steady and strong. Nessa's team stood together, exhausted but victorious. Kalian smiled, his form shimmering softly. You have done what many thought impossible, not just protected time, but honored its endless story. Nessa looked to the stars, feeling the threads of past, present, and future weaving around her like a comforting embrace. This isn't the end, she said. Time will always change. But as long as there are those who remember, who fight, who hope, the story continues. And so, with the mirror compass as their guide, Nessa and the Threadwalkers set out once more, guardians of time's tapestry, keepers of stories yet to be told. Epilogue. The tapestry continues long after the battle for the celestial nexus. Legends of the Threadwalkers spread across realms and ages. Their story became a beacon, a reminder that time was not a merciless force, but a living, breathing tapestry woven by every choice, every memory, every heartbeat. Nessa stood once more in the Echo Archive, now a sanctuary not just of memories but of hope. Around her, the threads of countless lives shimmered in vibrant colors, a mosaic of infinite possibility. Roan had become the archive's chief historian, preserving the stories that defined existence. Myra's visions guided explorers through the shifting currents of time. Jace's inventions unlocked new pathways between realities, and Kalian, ever the guardian, watched silently from the edges of time's flow. Yet, Nessa knew the journey was never truly over. Beyond the known threads, new challenges awaited, unseen fractures, forgotten histories, and perhaps new allies waiting to rise. As she reached out to the mirror compass, its glow pulsed softly, a heartbeat in tune with the universe itself. With a steady breath, Nessa smiled. Let the story continue. And so, under the watchful stars, the Threadwalkers prepared to step once more into the vast unknown. Champions of time, keepers of stories, and dreamers of endless tomorrows. After securing the celestial nexus, Nessa felt the gentle tug of a new disturbance. Faint ripples, like whispers on the edge of a dream. The mirror compass pulsed with unfamiliar energy, guiding her and the team toward a hidden thread of time, a timeline untouched, yet fragile. This new realm was known as the Veil of Lost Tomorrows, a mysterious expanse where forgotten futures drifted like drifting stars. Possibilities that never came to pass, stories erased before they began. As the Threadwalkers ventured deeper into the veil, they encountered echoes of lives that might have been, cities where technology and nature merged in harmony, individuals who made different choices, and worlds teetering on the edge of collapse or salvation. But the veil was more than a place of lost chances. It was alive, reacting to their presence. From its depths arose the chronowraiths, spectral beings born from erased timelines, desperate to reclaim their existence by weaving themselves back into the flow of reality, by any means necessary. Nessa knew the stakes had risen again. This time, the battle was not just to preserve what had been, but to rescue what could have been, and still might be. Together with Roan, Mira, Jace, and Kalian, Nessa prepared to confront the chronowraiths, navigating a labyrinth of shifting possibilities where every decision could birth a new reality, or shatter the fragile balance of time itself. Nessa and her team stepped carefully into the Veil of Lost Tomorrows, where the air shimmered with possibility and echoes of unrealized lives drifted like mist. Every step seemed to shift the landscape. A city might rise, then fade. A conversation flickered in and out like a half-remembered dream. Roan, ever the historian, was captivated yet wary. These are futures that never happened, yet here they linger, fragile as glass. Disturbing them might cause more harm than good. Myra's eyes glowed softly as she peered into the currents of time. The chronowraiths feed on this uncertainty. They crave to rewrite existence by inserting themselves into these lost threads. Suddenly, a chilling breeze swept through the shifting horizon. Figures emerged, transparent and shimmering, faces twisted in silent longing. The chronowraiths had found them. Jace quickly activated a device that emitted a stabilizing pulse, but the wraiths were relentless. They reached out with tendrils of shadow, attempting to latch onto the team's own time essences. Nessa raised the mirror compass, its light forming a protective dome. We must show them that even lost possibilities have meaning, that every thread matters. As the battle raged, Nessa noticed something remarkable. Some wraiths hesitated near memories of hope and courage, drawn to the light rather than darkness. With a determined breath, she extended her mind, reaching out to the forgotten hopes within the veil. The wraiths faltered, their shadows dissolving into fragments of light. One wraith, more solid than the rest, stepped forward, a young woman with eyes full of sorrow and longing. "I was forgotten," she whispered. "Lost before I could be." Nessa offered her hand. "Then help us weave your story into the tapestry. You belong here." Slowly, the wraith's form brightened, and with her acceptance, the veil began to stabilize. The Threadwalkers realized their mission in the veil was not to erase or conquer, but to heal, to give lost futures a place in the endless story of time. Nessa gently guided the young wraith, whose name she learned was Lyra, deeper into the heart of the veil. Lyra's form shimmered with growing light, each step weaving her back into existence, not as a shadow, but as a living thread in the tapestry of time. The team discovered that many chronowraiths were like Lyra, echoes of possibilities lost to tragedy, fear, or forgotten dreams. Each carried a story unfinished, a potential untapped. Roan proposed they create a sanctuary within the veil, a place where these lost futures could exist safely, a realm between realities where the wraiths might choose new paths without risking the stability of the main timeline. Mira saw in the sanctuary a chance to explore the nature of choice itself, how one decision could branch infinite worlds, each deserving respect and chance. Jace worked tirelessly, designing temporal anchors, devices to stabilize the sanctuary and allow safe passage between realms. Kalian stood guard, his presence a constant reminder of time's fragile balance. As the sanctuary grew, the chronowraiths began to transform. Some chose to become guides for lost travelers. Others embraced new lives in realms they helped shape. Nessa found herself reflecting on her own journey, how every moment of doubt, courage, and hope had led here. Yet, she knew that the threads of time would continue to unravel and reweave endlessly. Their mission was eternal. But in this new chapter, the Threadwalkers had forged not only protectors of time, but healers of forgotten possibilities. Together, they looked to the horizon where past, present, and future converged, a place where all stories, even the lost ones, could find their place. As the sanctuary within the veil of lost tomorrows flourished, a sense of fragile peace settled. Lost futures found new purpose, and the once desperate chronowraiths grew into beings of light and guidance. But peace is often the quiet before the storm. Deep within the shifting mists of the veil, an ancient presence stirred, a force older and more insidious than the Void Weavers or the chronowraiths. Known only in whispered legends as the Eclipse Serpent, this entity fed not on time itself, but on the unraveling of meaning, the dissolution of purpose, hope, and connection. The Eclipse Serpent slithered through realities, seeking to consume the new sanctuary, to turn the hopeful threads into tangled knots of despair. It whispered lies into the minds of the newly transformed wraiths, sowing distrust and fear. Old wounds reopened, and some began to question their place in the tapestry. Nessa felt the mirror compass pulse urgently, a warning. The delicate balance they fought so hard to build was under threat once more. Gathering her team, she said, "The Eclipse Serpent doesn't just want to destroy time. It wants to unravel the very meaning that gives time its strength. We must protect the sanctuary, not just with power, but with the stories and bonds that make us whole." The Threadwalkers prepared to face this new foe, knowing that this battle would test not only their strength, but their faith in each other, and in the endless story they guarded. The Eclipse Serpent's presence twisted the very fabric of the sanctuary. Shadows lengthened, and whispers of doubt seeped into the hearts of the chronowraiths who had only just begun to embrace their new lives. Some withdrew into isolation, their light dimming. Others turned suspiciously toward their companions, fearing betrayal. Nessa gathered the Threadwalkers in the heart of the sanctuary. "We must remind them why they chose hope," she said. "Our strength comes from the stories we share and the bonds we build." Roan began to recount tales of courage from the many timelines they had saved, stories of sacrifice and redemption that inspired even the most doubtful. Mira projected visions of brighter futures, showing the wraiths the possibilities they could still create. Jace distributed temporal anchors that resonated with warmth and stability, easing the fear that gripped many. Kalian stood as a steadfast protector, his presence a symbol of unwavering strength. Together, they held a gathering where each chronowraith was invited to share their story, both the pain of what was lost and the hope of what could be. Slowly, the threads of connection wove tighter, reinforcing the sanctuary's light. But the eclipsed serpent was cunning. It struck during moments of hesitation, attempting to unravel these bonds with illusions that preyed on past regrets and fears. Nessa faced the serpent directly, her voice steady despite the creeping cold of its shadow. "You feed on despair, but we choose to fight for meaning. Our stories are stronger than your darkness." Drawing the mirror compass close, she summoned the combined light of the light fragments. A brilliant wave washed over the sanctuary, dissolving the serpent's illusions and pushing back its creeping shadow. The eclipsed serpent recoiled but whispered a final warning. "This is far from over." Though the immediate threat was driven back, Nessa knew that protecting the sanctuary, and all of time, would require vigilance, courage, and the unbreakable will of those who believed in the power of stories. In the quiet moments after the battle, Mira found herself drawn to the edges of the sanctuary, where the veil's shimmering mists twisted in colors she had never seen before. Her gift of foresight, once a beacon for the team, now felt heavy, visions flooding her mind in rapid, chaotic waves. She saw countless futures, some bright and hopeful, others dark and shattered. Among them flickered a single thread, fragile yet persistent. A future where the sanctuary thrived, but only if she could learn to embrace uncertainty rather than control it. Haunted by doubt, Mira confided in Nessa. "My visions are becoming too much. I see so many possibilities, and it's hard to know which path is true." Nessa smiled gently. "Time is never certain, Mira. That's what makes our work so important. You don't have to control the future, only guide it with hope and trust." Taking a deep breath, Mira closed her eyes and let the chaotic visions flow through her like a river rather than a flood. She began to sense patterns, rhythms, a dance between choice and chance. With renewed clarity, she returned to the sanctuary's heart and shared her insights. The eclipsed serpent tries to unravel meaning by breeding fear of the unknown. But the future isn't a single path, it's a tapestry woven by every hope we hold. Her words inspired the wraiths and the threadwalkers alike. Myra's acceptance of uncertainty became a new kind of strength, one that embraced change and possibility. With Myra's insight guiding them, the sanctuary began to transform. No longer a place frozen between lost futures, it became a living, breathing realm of endless possibility, where every choice could birth new worlds, and hope wove through even the smallest moments. The chronowraiths flourished, empowered to shape their destinies instead of fearing the shadows of the past. But this freedom also brought unexpected challenges. As the veil expanded, so did the complexity of its threads. New anomalies appeared, temporal fractures where timelines collided, creating chaotic echoes that threatened to unravel the sanctuary's delicate balance. Jace worked tirelessly to create devices to monitor and mend these fractures, but the sheer scale of the task was overwhelming. Meanwhile, Roan uncovered ancient texts hinting at other hidden realms within the vast multiverse, places untouched by time's flow, where unknown forces stirred. Nessa realized that their journey was far from over. Protecting time's tapestry required not only defending against darkness, but understanding the ever-changing nature of reality itself. Gathering her team, she said, "We've learned that time is not a line, but a web, intricate and alive. Our role is to be its guardians and its guides, embracing uncertainty with courage." Kalian nodded, his eyes glowing with quiet resolve. "And together, we'll face whatever threads unravel next." As they prepared to explore these new realms and confront emerging threats, the mirror compass pulsed with radiant energy, a beacon lighting the path forward. The story of the Threadwalkers continued, an endless adventure in the ever-weaving tapestry of time. Roan carefully unrolled the ancient scrolls, their faded ink whispering secrets of realms beyond the veil. Realms where time seemed to pause or twist in unimaginable ways. These were the eternal realms, places untouched by the usual flow of past, present and future, existing in strange pockets of reality. The Threadwalkers prepared to journey beyond the sanctuary, stepping through a shimmering portal conjured by Jace's latest device. As they crossed the threshold, the familiar currents of time faded, replaced by an eerie stillness. Their first destination was the realm of endless dusk, a twilight world where stars hung frozen in the sky and moments stretched like shadows across the land. Here, the team encountered beings called the Eternals, ancient entities who had transcended time itself. The Eternals spoke in riddles, their voices echoing like wind through empty halls. They warned that the Eternal Realms were both refuge and prison, places where lost memories and forgotten dreams could be trapped forever. While exploring, Myra's visions revealed fractures deeper than before, pockets where reality threatened to collapse entirely. The Eclipse Serpent's influence seemed to seep even here, a dark tendril reaching beyond the veil. Nessa realized their mission had grown. It was not only to protect the sanctuary, but to understand and heal these untouched realms, or risk losing entire threads of existence. The Threadwalkers cautiously approached the Eternals, their ethereal forms shimmering like living stardust. These beings embodied the paradox of the Eternal Realms, timeless yet bound, infinite yet isolated. One Eternal, its voice like a chorus of distant bells, spoke. "We are the keepers of stillness, guardians of moments lost to the flow. But even here, shadows gather. The Eclipse Serpent's hunger stretches beyond your sanctuary, threatening to consume the very essence of eternity." Nessa felt the weight of their words. How can we stop this? How do we protect the flow of time when even timelessness is at risk? An Eternal extended a hand, revealing a crystal pulsating with shimmering light. Within this shard lies a fragment of primordial time, the seed of creation itself. To save the tapestry, you must journey to the heart of the Eternal Realms, where this fragment can be awakened. Roan studied the crystal carefully. This could restore balance, but the journey will test us beyond anything we've faced. Myra's visions grew clearer, showing glimpses of trials that awaited, a labyrinth of forgotten hopes, echoes of futures never born, and the looming presence of the Eclipse Serpent. Jace prepared their equipment, ensuring their devices could withstand the strange temporal distortions of the Eternal Realms. Kalian tightened his grip on his ancient blade, his eyes steady and unwavering. Together, the Threadwalkers stepped forward, determined to awaken the primordial fragment and protect all that time had yet to weave. The Threadwalkers ventured deeper into the labyrinth of forgotten hopes, a shifting maze where memories shimmered like fragile glass, and every step echoed with whispers of what might have been. Time here flowed unevenly. Moments stretched or snapped abruptly, testing their resolve and unity. Mira led with her visions, guiding the team through illusions designed to prey on their fears and regrets. Roan's knowledge of history helped them discern truth from deception, while Jace's gadgets stabilized their passage through unstable pockets of time. Kalian remained vigilant, warding off shadowy wraiths sent by the Eclipse Serpent to stop their advance. Nessa, carrying the primordial fragment, felt its warmth pulse with each step, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. At the labyrinth's heart, they faced the Eclipse Serpent itself, a vast, sinuous creature woven from shadows and despair. Its eyes glowed with ancient hunger, and its voice was a sibilant whisper promising oblivion. "You cannot undo what has been lost," it hissed. "Time's weave will unravel, and all stories end in silence." Nessa raised the mirror compass, its light merging with the fragment's glow. "We are the Threadwalkers. We fight for every story, every moment of hope. Time is not just what was or will be, it is what we make of it." With a roar, the team combined their strengths, Myra's visions, Roan's wisdom, Jace's inventions, Kalian's might, and Nessa's unwavering spirit. Light burst forth, weaving through the shadows, binding the fragment's power to the very fabric of the Eternal Realms. The Eclipse Serpent shrieked, retreating into the void, its hunger thwarted, at least for now. Exhausted but triumphant, the Threadwalkers knew their journey was far from over. The tapestry of time was vast and ever-changing, but as long as they stood together, hope would never fade. Returning to the sanctuary, the Threadwalkers were greeted by a radiant dawn breaking through the shimmering mists, a sign that the eternal realms and the veil of lost tomorrows were stabilizing. The primordial fragment's power, now woven into the sanctuary's core, pulsed gently, restoring balance and hope to the lost futures it sheltered. Yet, even as peace settled, subtle changes began to ripple through time. The battle with the eclipsed serpent had weakened barriers between realities, and new, unpredictable threads began to intertwine. Roan pored over ancient texts, discovering hints of a hidden realm called the Chronicle Nexus, a legendary archive said to hold the collective memories of all worlds and timelines. It was a place of infinite knowledge, but guarded by powerful sentinels who allowed no unwelcome visitors. Nessa felt a calling, a pull toward this mysterious nexus, sensing that their next challenge awaited there. The sanctuary's light was strong, but the weave of time required more than guardians. It needed seekers of truth. Gathering her team, she said, "Our victory has opened doors we never knew existed. To protect the tapestry, we must journey to the Chronicle Nexus and uncover its secrets." Mira, Roan, Jace, and Kalian nodded, ready to face the unknown once again. As the mirror compass glowed brighter than ever, the Threadwalkers prepared to step beyond their known worlds, toward the heart of all stories, where the past, present, and future converged in endless possibility. The Threadwalkers stepped through a portal shimmering with threads of silver and gold, entering the vast expanse of the Chronicle Nexus. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a colossal library stretching infinitely in all directions, its shelves filled with glowing tomes that pulsed with the memories and stories of countless worlds and timelines. The air hummed with the weight of knowledge, and the very atmosphere seemed alive with whispers of forgotten legends and unwritten futures. Yet beneath the awe, a quiet tension lingered, an unspoken warning that not all knowledge wished to be uncovered. Roan approached a massive tome bound in shifting shadows. The Nexus holds the truth of all time, but it's also a place where secrets can corrupt and curiosity can become a trap. Suddenly, ethereal sentinels materialized, beings woven from light and ink, their eyes glowing with fierce judgment. "Only those who prove worthy may seek the knowledge of the Nexus," one intoned. "Reveal your purpose." Nessa stepped forward, her voice steady. "We are the Threadwalkers, guardians of time's tapestry. We seek wisdom to protect the weave from threats like the eclipsed serpent and to guide lost possibilities to light." The sentinels studied them, then slowly lowered their weapons. "Your hearts bear truth and resolve. But beware, within these halls, the past may confront you, and futures may tempt you to stray." As they ventured deeper, Myra's visions became both a guide and a burden, revealing echoes of their own histories intertwined with the Nexus's vast records. Each team member faced personal trials, visions that challenged their faith, their fears, and their hopes. Jace found a tome revealing inventions that could alter the flow of time itself. Roan uncovered forgotten histories that questioned his understanding of fate. Kalian faced echoes of battles he thought long past. Together, they realized that to protect the tapestry, they must first confront their own threads, weaving strength from their struggles. Jace stood before a glowing tome etched with intricate diagrams, blueprints of devices capable of bending and reshaping time itself. The inventions were beyond anything he had imagined, blending ancient magic with futuristic science. As he studied the pages, a vision enveloped him. He saw himself wielding such technology, altering timelines at will. At first, the power was exhilarating, correcting mistakes, preventing tragedies. But soon, he witnessed the unintended consequences. Entire realities unraveling, lives erased, and destinies rewritten without consent. The vision twisted, showing Jace as a tyrant of time, feared and isolated, the very force he sought to protect now a source of destruction. Jace's heart pounded. Could he wield such power responsibly? Was it right to change the course of events, even with the best intentions? Nessa's voice broke through the vision. Power without wisdom is a thread that unravels the whole tapestry. Your strength lies not in control, but in understanding and respect for the flow of time. Gathering his courage, Jace closed the tome, vowing to use his knowledge to safeguard time, not dominate it. His trial strengthened the team's resolve, reminding them that the true power of the Threadwalkers came from balance, humility, and trust in the endless weave of stories. Roan wandered through endless rows of shimmering books, his fingers brushing over volumes containing the histories of countless worlds and civilizations. He sought answers to the questions that had long haunted him. Was fate truly predetermined, or was free will an illusion? Suddenly, a vision surrounded him. Scenes from timelines where his choices led to different outcomes. He saw friends lost or saved, kingdoms fallen or thriving, and futures bright or dark, all hinging on moments he had believed fixed. A voice echoed softly, "History is a river, not a wall. It flows with the choices of those who dare to shape it." Roan realized that many of the histories he had studied were but one thread among many possibilities. The past was not set in stone, it was alive, shifting with each action and decision. But this revelation unsettled him. If history was fluid, how could he trust anything? How could the Threadwalkers guide the tapestry when even the past was uncertain? Nessa appeared beside him. The strength of the tapestry is in its threads, the countless stories woven together. We don't control the river, we navigate it with wisdom and heart. With newfound understanding, Roan embraced the fluidity of history, ready to guide the future not by dictating it, but by weaving hope into every thread. Myra's trial within the Chronicle Nexus unfolded like a shifting dreamscape, a place where time folded back on itself, memories and possibilities overlapping in kaleidoscopic patterns. As she wandered deeper into the Nexus, visions overwhelmed her. Echoes of her own past and future intertwined with countless other timelines. Faces of loved ones appeared and faded, moments of joy and loss blurred together. The weight of so many potential futures pressed heavily on her spirit. She felt torn between the desire to protect every possibility and the harsh reality that not all futures could come to pass. In the heart of the trial, a radiant figure appeared, an embodiment of time's endless flow, neither friend nor foe, but a guide. "Why do you fear the unknown?" the figure asked softly. "To grasp all futures is to carry every burden. But wisdom lies in embracing the mystery, in trusting the threads yet unwoven." Mira closed her eyes, breathing deeply. She realized that her gift was not to see every possible outcome, but to illuminate the path forward with hope and courage. When she opened her eyes, the vision softened into a warm light, and a sense of peace settled within her. Returning to her team, Mira shared her insight. "The future isn't a puzzle to solve, but a story to live. We guide it best when we walk with faith in what can be, not fear of what might." Kalian's trial within the Chronicle Nexus tested not just his strength, but his very sense of identity and purpose. As he moved through the endless halls, echoes of battles long past surrounded him. Ghostly warriors clashing in timeless combat, the clang of steel and roar of war filling the air. Among them, Kalian saw versions of himself, the fierce protector, the weary soldier, the lost warrior searching for meaning. A spectral figure stepped forward, an ancient warrior draped in shadows. "You have fought countless battles, but have you truly found your cause? Or are you merely a weapon of fate, bound by duty and sorrow?" Kalian gripped his blade tightly, the question striking deep. He had always defined himself by his strength and his role as protector of the sanctuary, but doubts crept in. Was he fighting for others or for himself? Was his path chosen, or could he forge a new one? In the vision, he faced a choice. Continue the endless cycle of conflict, or lay down his sword and seek a different way. Nessa's voice echoed in his mind. "True strength is knowing when to fight and when to heal." Kalian lowered his blade, embracing the possibility of change. His trial revealed that courage was not only in battle, but also in vulnerability and growth. Rejoining the team, Kalian carried with him a renewed purpose. Not just to defend, but to build a future where peace could flourish. Emerging from their personal trials, the Threadwalkers found themselves more united and stronger in spirit. But the Chronicle Nexus itself was shifting beneath their feet. The ancient library, once a sanctuary of knowledge, began to tremble as dark forces stirred in its deepest recesses. An ominous presence revealed itself, a twisted entity born from the residual shadows of the Eclipse Serpent's failed assault, a temporal wraith, feeding on fractured memories and corrupted timelines. It slithered through the corridors, devouring forgotten stories and unraveling the delicate threads of the Nexus. The Sentinels warned the team. This creature threatens to collapse the Nexus and sever the flow of all history. You must confront it before all knowledge is lost. Nessa gripped the mirror compass tightly. We protect not just time, but the stories that give it meaning. The battle was fierce and surreal, time itself warping around them as the wraith struck with tendrils of forgotten despair. Jace's devices hummed, stabilizing the shifting corridors. Myra's visions guided their strikes. Roan deciphered the wraith's patterns. Kalian's blade cut through shadowy limbs, and Nessa channeled the light of the primordial fragment. With a final surge of combined strength, they banished the temporal wraith into the void, restoring calm to the Nexus. Breathing heavily, Nessa looked to her team. The tapestry is fragile, but as long as we stand together, every thread can be saved. Their journey in the Chronicle Nexus had only begun, but the Threadwalkers were ready, guardians of time's endless story. As the Nexus settled back into a fragile calm, a hidden chamber revealed itself, a secret vault deep within the library, illuminated by soft golden light. The team approached cautiously, sensing that whatever lay inside could change everything. Inside, they discovered the Codex of Eons, an ancient manuscript said to contain the collective wisdom of countless civilizations and the key to understanding the true nature of time. Opening the Codex, they found pages that shifted and rearranged themselves, revealing truths that transcended their previous knowledge. Time was not linear or even cyclical, but a vast, living web connecting all existence. The Codex also hinted at a looming threat beyond the Eclipse Serpent, a force older and more enigmatic, known only as the Weaver of Shadows, a being said to manipulate the threads of reality itself. Nessa's eyes narrowed. Our fight is far from over. The Weaver could unravel everything we've protected. Jace examined the Codex's symbols. We'll need new allies and deeper understanding if we're to face something so powerful. Roan nodded. The Chronicle Nexus may hold the clues, but we might have to venture beyond it, into realms where even the Nexus fears to tread. Myra's voice was steady, but filled with resolve. Then our path is clear. We are the Threadwalkers, and no matter how dark the shadows, we will keep the light of time alive. With the Codex in hand, the team prepared for their next journey, one that would take them beyond the boundaries of known reality and into the heart of the Weaver's domain. The Threadwalkers set out to gather allies and resources for the looming confrontation with the Weaver of Shadows. Their first destination was the legendary Sanctum of Echoes, a hidden refuge where beings who could manipulate fragments of time and space dwelled. Upon arrival, they were greeted by the Echo Wardens, ethereal guardians who preserved lost memories and safeguarded ancient secrets. The Wardens tested the Threadwalkers, challenging their intentions and the strength of their bond. After proving their unity and purpose, the Wardens revealed a powerful artifact, the Chrono Prism, capable of focusing and amplifying temporal energies. It could help the Threadwalkers navigate the Weaver's realm, where reality bent and fractured. With the Chrono Prism secured, the team also formed alliances with the Skyward Sentinels, fierce warriors who protected the skies of various realms and possessed knowledge of interdimensional pathways. As the Threadwalkers prepared to enter the Weaver's domain, each member trained and fortified their abilities, aware that the battle ahead would test not only their strength but their very essence. Nessa held the Codex of Eons close. The Weaver's power is vast, but together, we are stronger than any shadow. With the prism glowing and allies at their side, the Threadwalkers stepped through a swirling portal, crossing into a realm where time unraveled and fate was a thread they must fiercely protect. Inside the Weaver's domain, reality twisted and folded like a fragile tapestry caught in a storm. Time rippled unpredictably. Moments sped up, slowed down, and overlapped in dizzying patterns. The Threadwalkers advanced cautiously, their senses stretched to the limit. The landscape was surreal, floating fragments of cities from forgotten eras, rivers flowing backward, and skies painted with stars that shimmered in impossible colors. Echoes of countless timelines whispered around them, some inviting, others warning. Suddenly, shadowy tendrils erupted from the darkness, striking at the Threadwalkers. These were the shards of unraveling, fragments of broken timelines animated by the Weaver's will, each one a twisted echo of what could have been. Jace quickly activated the chronoprism, focusing its light to dissolve the shards. Kalian defended fiercely, cutting through the shadows, while Myra's visions pinpointed their true forms. Roan's knowledge of temporal history helped them predict the shards' chaotic movements. Deeper into the domain, the air grew colder, heavier with the weight of impending confrontation. At last, they reached the heart of the realm, an immense web woven from threads of time and shadow. There, the Weaver of Shadows awaited, a figure both beautiful and terrifying, its form shifting between light and darkness, eyes glowing with infinite knowledge and malice. "Fools," the Weaver's voice echoed, both seductive and menacing. "You seek to mend what must be undone. But I am the architect of endings, the balance to your fragile hope." Nessa stepped forward, mirror compass shining bright. "We are the Threadwalkers. Time is not yours to unravel. We stand for every story, every life woven into this vast tapestry." The battle for the fate of all timelines had begun. The ground shuddered beneath the Threadwalkers as the Weaver of Shadows rose to its full height, towering over the glimmering battlefield of suspended time threads and shattered realities. Its voice coiled through the air like smoke. "You do not understand the weave. It is not meant to last. Entropy is the only true constant." But Nessa, calm and resolute, replied, "We understand more than you think. The tapestry of time isn't perfect, but it's alive. It's worth protecting." The Weaver extended one long, tendrilled arm toward the Codex of Eons. "You carry the illusion of choice. Let me show you truth." Suddenly, all 5 Threadwalkers were cast into visions, each one isolated within a false reality crafted by the Weaver, tailored to weaken their resolve. Mira stood in a world where she had prevented every disaster she foresaw, but at the cost of becoming a prisoner of her own perfection, unable to feel or connect. Jace found himself in a timeline where his inventions made him a revered emperor, but his people were nothing more than controlled simulations, obedient, hollow, lifeless. Kalian awoke to an eternal war he could never win, reliving the same battle endlessly, haunted by the illusion that peace was never possible. Roan faced a history where every fact he had ever preserved was rewritten by the Weaver. The past turned against him, truth lost in a storm of manufactured memories. And Nessa, in the heart of the illusion, stood in a world where the Threadwalkers never existed, where the tapestry had already been undone, and she walked alone through the void. But each one fought their way back. Mira shattered her vision with a pulse of raw empathy. Jace dismantled the illusion piece by piece, seeing through the logic trap. Kalian dropped his sword and chose stillness, breaking the cycle. Roan remembered a single undeniable truth. Stories live as long as someone believes in them. And Nessa, standing alone, whispered into the void, "You can't erase hope." The illusions cracked and fell away. The 5 reunited, standing beneath the Weaver's swirling core. The Codex of Eons flared open, and the chronoprism vibrated with brilliant energy. "You chose resistance," the Weaver said, its form now flickering. "Then face the cost of defying destiny." The final battle began, reality twisting with every strike, threads snapping and healing as time itself fought to survive. The final battle was unlike anything the Threadwalkers had ever faced. The Weaver of Shadows unleashed its full power, warping the battlefield with waves of temporal distortion. Seconds stretched into hours, hours collapsed into moments. The fabric of reality flickered between futures that might be, and pasts that should never have been. But the Threadwalkers stood firm, each wielding not only their unique gifts, but also the lessons of their trials. Kalian was the first to charge. The battlefield twisted around him, illusions rising from his worst memories, but he no longer feared them. Each swing of his blade was guided by clarity, not rage. He cut through the tangles of false timelines with precision, forcing the weaver to recoil from his unwavering focus. Mira moved like a ghost through the chaos, her sight piercing through every illusion the weaver cast. Where others saw confusion, she saw order. Using the light of the chronoprism, she redirected collapsing realities, stitching together fragments of time to form stable paths for her teammates. Jace deployed devices that harnessed paradox itself, blades that bent causality, shields powered by alternate outcomes. With every invention, he cornered the weaver, forcing it to react to unpredictable bursts of future tech laced with old-world magic. Roan stood at the heart of a vortex of unraveling histories. Instead of resisting, he opened the Codex of Eons and began to read aloud. Words of forgotten heroes, moments of great peace, even tales that had never come to pass. As he spoke, the threads of these stories rewove themselves into the battlefield, resisting the weaver's entropy with the raw power of memory and meaning. Finally, Nessa approached the weaver, holding both the mirror compass and the codex. The weaver lunged, shadow-wreathed tendrils lashing out, but Nessa raised the compass and reflected its power back. You thrive on unraveling what others build. But we are not afraid of broken threads, she said. We are the ones who mend them. Channeling the strength of her team and the Nexus itself, Nessa cast the light of the compass directly into the weaver's core. The other threadwalkers joined her, surrounding the entity with threads of memory, choice, sacrifice, and love. The weaver screamed, not in pain, but in understanding. This is not the end. No, whispered Nessa. It's a beginning. With one final pulse, the weaver unraveled, not destroyed but transformed, its dark essence woven back into the tapestry as balance rather than threat. The Nexus trembled, then stilled. The battlefield faded into golden silence. The threadwalkers stood together, tired but victorious. And above them, the tapestry shimmered, whole once more. Epilogue. The tapestry restored the battle had ended, but its echoes lingered like soft thunder beneath the threads of time. In the heart of the Chronicle Nexus, the great tapestry shimmered brighter than ever, no longer fraying, no longer under siege, but pulsing with renewed life. The Weaver of Shadows had not been destroyed, but transformed, its essence now interwoven with the balance of time, neither tyrant nor villain, but a necessary force kept in harmony by the guardians of the Nexus. The Threadwalkers stood in quiet awe, watching as the tapestry rippled gently in an unseen wind. Their victory had not only preserved history, it had redefined it. Kalian returned to the surface world for a time, walking the battle-scarred lands he once protected. But he did not return as a warrior, he became a teacher. In a sanctuary built upon the ruins of war, he trained future generations in the art of peace before strength. His sword, once a symbol of conflict, now rested above the gate, sheathed forever in honor. Mira, her visions no longer a burden, became the Chronicle Nexus's first guide of untold stories. She wandered forgotten paths in the weave of time, helping souls who had slipped between threads find their rightful place again. Her compassion rewrote endings once lost. Jace created the Paradox Atelier, a floating laboratory powered by future potential and relics of the past. He began crafting tools not for war, but for healing damaged timelines and preserving delicate historical echoes. Curious minds from across the realms came to learn from him. Roan took his place among the Echo Wardens, his voice now one of the eternal storytellers. He continued to record not just the histories of civilizations, but the truths found in courage, grief, laughter, and love. He learned that stories lived longer when they were shared. Nessa, bearer of the Mirror Compass, remained in the Nexus, not as its ruler, but as its steward. She watched over the tapestry with quiet strength, ensuring balance and unity between shadow and light. But more than that, she reminded those who visited that every life, no matter how small, left a mark on the weave. And so, the Threadwalkers were no longer just protectors of time. They became its keepers, its interpreters, and its living memory. As the Chronicle Nexus opened its doors to new guardians, new stories began to take root. Somewhere, in a distant part of the tapestry, a single thread shimmered softly, waiting for its story to be told. Though the Weaver of Shadows had been transformed and balance restored, the Chronicle Nexus was forever changed. Its halls no longer felt like mere chambers of memory. They breathed with the vitality of living time, open now to new journeys and new protectors. But for the original Threadwalkers, one final thread remained unfinished. One quiet evening, as the stars above the Nexus shimmered in patterns unseen since the First Era, Nessa stood alone at the great observatory balcony. In her hand, the mirror compass pulsed faintly, not with danger, but with longing. A familiar voice spoke from behind her. "Mira, it's calling again, isn't it?" Nessa nodded slowly. Not a threat, not even a warning, just a whisper. Something old, something forgotten. Soon, the team gathered once more, their paths converging without invitation. Jace, Kalian, Mira, Roan. Each of them had felt it. A subtle ripple in the weave, a thread that shimmered just outside perception. It wasn't a disturbance. It was an invitation. The Codex of Eons opened to a blank page, something it had never done. But as they stood around it, a new story began to write itself. Not in ink, but in light. Beyond the borderlands of time, past the river of Wen and the mountains that were never named, lies the loom unseen, a place where even the tapestry does not reach. They knew what it meant, a place older than time, hidden even from the Weaver, perhaps the very loom from which all reality was first spun. Jace grinned. Another impossible place. Just our kind of destination. Roan chuckled. If the loom unseen exists, we'll bring back more than stories. Kalian rested his hand on the hilt of a ceremonial blade he no longer drew. Then we stepped forward, once again. Myra's eyes sparkled. And maybe we'll find out who started the first thread. Nessa closed the codex and tucked the compass to her chest. We go not as guardians, not as saviors. We go as seekers. Together, the Threadwalkers opened a new path, one that hadn't yet been written, where cause and effect might dance in reverse, and where stories were born before their tellers existed. And so, into the unknown they stepped once more, not to protect what was, but to discover what had never been. Because in the vast expanse of existence, even after time is saved, adventure never ends. As the Threadwalkers passed beyond the bounds of the Chronicle Nexus, their journey took them into a realm unlike any they had ever encountered, the loom unseen. There were no stars here, no sky, no ground, only an infinite cascade of radiant threads stretching in all directions, some trembling like strings of a great celestial instrument, others frozen in place like strands of light caught in a moment before becoming real. Time did not pass in the loom unseen. It waited. Each step they took seemed to echo forward and backward simultaneously, and the very air hummed with unborn stories. The compass offered no direction. The codex recorded nothing. For the first time, the Threadwalkers faced a place before narrative, where existence itself awaited its first sentence. And then they found it. Floating at the very heart of the loom was a single massive spindle of light, an ancient mechanism still turning slowly, though no hand touched it. At its center stood a figure, faceless, neither light nor shadow. Not the Weaver, not a god, a presence, the first teller,